I actually thought, considering when, the day started on Friday, I actually thought that the Devils were going to end up with Marc-Andre Fleury, considering what I was hearing. I was
Yeah.
hearing the Devils were talking to Vegas about trying to acquire Fleury, which I was like, that's not a bad idea. We could just, leave him open in the expansion draft after 1 year if it doesn't, if the parties don't agree with each other. But signing Corey Crawford, I thought was actually a pretty solid, low risk. Also another, like, Joe was explaining before, kind of a medium type of reward. He could play 30 games and give Blackwood more rest than he's gotten recently. So I think it was a solid move. And the fact that he grew up a Devils fan doesn't really hurt either.
No, I think it's good because I'm gonna go in on this one because this is my area to talk about with the goaltending. I thought I was happy with it. I thought New Jersey was gonna do something because we all know as Devils fans, the Devils are always do a move where you're like, really, like, are you kidding me? Like, what were you thinking? But like when I seen that Corey Crawford signed, I was ecstatic, like because Schneider's wasn't the goalie that he used to be, and then now having Crawford, you have basically a 1A or 1B, whatever you want to call him. Corey Crawford can start games and play stretches. So if Blackwood struggles, you can throw Crawford into the net consistently, and he's probably going to give you most nights a really solid effort in net. Yeah, he might let the odd soft goal in a game. He's known for doing that every now and then, but what goalie also isn't. So
yeah,
not every hockey player is perfect. So I mean, like for the Devils, I think it's great because now you take the pressure off of Mackenzie Blackwood because you started to see sort of down the stretch during the season, even though we weren't doing very good, is Nasreddine had to lay off playing Blackwood as much down the stretch there, even though we weren't, challenging for a playoff spot because he was probably getting exhausted.
Yeah, I mean, you don't want to run a goalie into the ground.
No, and Schneider was so bad. The Devils were basically forced to play Blackwood on back-to-back nights when they were playing. And most times teams playing a back-to-back, unless you're battling for a playoff spot down the stretch, you're playing your backup goalie one of those nights. So, I mean, now it's nice knowing as a fan we can go back to having, Blackwood start one game, Corey Crawford start the other game. If one struggles, the other can ride it out for a bit and, help the team out. And I think Corey Crawford, you'll find when he plays, I think you're going to find he's going to steal the Devils some games.
Yeah, honestly,
he's underrated for his age. Like, people think he was overrated because he was playing in Chicago. That's why he was good. But I don't think so. I think Corey Crawford's actually a really good goalie. He just maybe not what he was, a couple years ago when he led the Hawks to a couple Stanley Cups, but
yeah,
so he's still going to be a solid goalie. He's going to be he's a good pickup for the Devils, especially at that money. And then you saw Thomas Greiss get paid, etc. But I would rather Corey Crawford over a lot of these guys backups that we're signing. I'm just glad the Devils didn't acquire James Reimer. Like as good as Carolina's goaltending was, I watched James Reimer enough when he was up the road here, and he's not as good as everybody makes him out to be. He's not.
You don't like Optimus Rhyme?
No, I don't.
The only person I think in the NHL that still likes him is probably Steve Dangle. He's probably the only person that still
he was just doing what about Andreas Janssen? I think yesterday.
Did he get upset? Was he upset about it? I'm sure he was.
I'm sure I saw him go bonkers after all the signings, and then he goes on to rant about Joey Anderson and then Andreas Janssen and Rachel Dory and this and that. It was funny to see how he brought up like former Devils executive.
You pay when $40 million of your cap is to like 4 players. That's what happens. You give way too much money to people, and you end up end up having to give up assets. And this is what Vegas has to do. Vegas has become the Toronto of the West. That's what they become by doing what they just did.
Alex, what do you think on the Corey Crawford thing?
I love it. I mean, I wrote about the free agent goaltenders, the hockey writers, about a month ago now, and Corey Crawford was on my list. And I think of the guys available between Crawford, Greiss, Hudobin, and who's the other guy? Cam Talbot. Crawford was my favorite. People like you said, people like want to say he's overrated because he played on the Hawks, but the Blackhawks defense has been a dumpster fire for like 3 seasons, and he was still making saves at a high level. They gave up the Blackhawks, I think, over the last 3 seasons, or at least the last 2 seasons, given up the most expected goals against per 60 minutes in the league at 5-on-5, and Crawford was still making saves. He has the 3rd highest high danger save percentage over the last 3 seasons in the NHL. He's just still a really good goalie, and I mean, there's really like, I don't want to say there's no downside to the signing, but I mean, I don't think the Devils could have done better. I know a lot of Devils fans wanted Thomas Greiss, but Crawford's a better goalie than Greiss still, and there's going to be a significant upgrade in net for the Devils next season. Like last season, anytime a goalie that not named Blackwood made a start for the Devils, you were like, oh, well, this is probably a loss. So that's not going to be the case with Corey Crawford. They're going to have a chance on most nights when he starts too. And even if the team has an off night, here and there, Crawford could step in and maybe like pull one out where they don't really deserve to win. So yeah, it's a big upgrade. I really don't think the Devils could have done a better job. Even if they were to get a sweetener for Fleury, I don't think that would have been the right move on their part. I think Crawford is the best they could have done. And yeah, it's a pretty good 1A, 1B to have with him and Blackwood.
I mean, we also got another one, and we brought Scott Wedgwood back.
Yeah.
And I think I don't know if you guys would agree, but I would say that I think Wedgwood has probably gotten better since he left New Jersey. Which, I mean, look, he went to Arizona, and it didn't. You knew he wasn't going to be that long. Now his name's going to be on the Stanley Cup, which, I think that's the case because I think he played 1 game.
He was dressed.
Yeah, he was dressed. This is
I'm sure there's some sort of implications before that thing gets submitted to Montreal in that medal
look, if
description.
Crawford doesn't work out, one of the things that they could do is expose him in the expansion draft, or they could trade him because he doesn't have a no trade clause the first year, and then he has a 10-team no trade clause in year 2. And he's making only about $4 million in year 2, like not even making that much. And Wedgwood is just a guy that could obviously give us some depth and also just a little bit of talent, I would say, to improve the minor league team as well. And if things don't go well with Crawford, Wedgwood, I feel like, would be a solid backup. And I think Wedgwood's only 26? He's not that young. He's not that old.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's more just an AHL signing. He hasn't really played too much in the NHL, I think, since he was with the Devils. So, and plus there's Gilles Sen, who I think the Devils probably value him a lot higher than.
They still have Schmid.
Cole
Brady.
Yeah, Schmid's still in the USHL though. So.
Right, and then they got Nico Dawes, Cole Brady, guys like that. It's just, they have a lot of options. But I mean, I think for just the Devil OG fans, I think that they're just happy to have him back. Regardless, talking about it from Wedgwood's perspective. But the Corey Crawford signing is a good one. And honestly, I think he's actually going to perform very well. If the Devils defense can block a few more shots than they usually do.
Even if their defense doesn't improve that much, I mean, he was playing behind one of the league's worst defense, if not the worst defense in the Blackhawks. So I think he can handle it. And I would think even if the Devils defense doesn't improve that much, it's still going to probably be better than what he was dealing with the Blackhawks. So yeah, I'd feel pretty good about him still being to perform at a high level.
One of the things that I think is important is that they tighten up on their giveaways, and they tighten up and increase their takeaways over giveaways, because last year there were a bunch of guys, that were moved, through free agency, another one that was traded away who gave up too many pucks. Just like, Wayne Simmons was one of them. Hall, last year gave up too many scoring chances to opposing teams.
Yep.
I think this team's going to be a little bit tighter. I would hope to see Lindy Ruff and whoever's going to be running the defensive side of things would teach them to be a little bit more careful, but not too careful to the point that you're so conservative that you lose possession because the other team's coming for you. So that's what I was checking last night. Kind of like Hockey Reference, just checking those stats. I was like, okay, well, I can see Jack Hughes flipping those numbers of takeaways and giveaways ratio and get the giveaways part to be lesser than. And so if he can do like 25% less of the giveaways, he'll be a much better off top center, which I think is important because you increase your offensive and defensive capabilities as a team.
Good point.
Yes, I got nothing to go on with that. You basically nailed that.
Yeah, no, I got nothing to say about that either. So.
That was more of just what we're all hoping for. And the Devils still have to find another assistant coach. I'm still big on Sergei Gonchar. If he's still there, I think he's still available. I don't recall.
Yeah, I don't think anyone's hired him yet.
I mean, Pittsburgh ties Fitzgerald.
Yeah, it makes sense. But we'll see. And then also you're hearing about, the Devils might probably announce that they're going to get a goalie coach within the next couple of days, considering what I'm hearing. But then they want to create what I guess they called it a goalie development.
Yeah, they want to change up the way they have their whole goalie thing structured. So I don't remember the quotes off the top of my head, but
yeah, they're talking about Clemson and Marty working together.
Yeah, they would kind of like I guess they would head the department a little bit, and then they'd have like an NHL goalie coach under them. And then I guess
have their own separate
that would work to even like working with Binghamton too. So
that's really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, teams have changed a lot the way they structure their development programs and I guess strength and conditioning as well. So I wouldn't be surprised if goaltending wasn't the only thing they kind of changed with their development structure. I think they might want to have
forwards.
Make some more additions to their development department for defensemen and forwards, but that might come at a later time. I don't know if anything's imminent there. This is just me guessing, by the way. I don't have inside information.
No.
So
I was going to say something similar about like how Marty, I believe, was probably getting a little tired of the hockey ops side, and I think they're gonna I know with the John Chayka thing, they're trying to have to wait a few years because they have to obey certain procedures through the NHL.
They still want to bring him in.
Yeah, but on a lower level to work with like analytics and stuff like that, like I would say for a few years, and then you promote him up to hockey ops. But you should have someone who should be temporary replacing Marty's spot as hockey ops and have him work the business side, unless otherwise.
Well, wasn't that what Marty was hired to do originally? He was originally hired to just be on the business side of things, and then things kind of got out of control because of what was going on in the front office when Shiro was still here. I wouldn't, if that's the case, then I don't put it past him. I don't think Marty ever wanted to come back to New Jersey to be involved with the team per se. I think he wanted to learn more of the business side because, sometimes guys just want to be more, businessmen than really just continuing to be involved in the game itself. I have one hot take about who I think should be offered an assistant coach job. Sergey Brylin is still with Binghamton. And I know he's not a defensive guy, but I would say that if you moved Elaine Nazardine to maybe work more on the defensive side, and you put Sergey Brylin working more with the forwards, along with Mark Recchi, I think that would actually be good. And I think that Sergey Brylin deserves an opportunity because he's been in the organization for so long, being a coach, being a development coach. I think he deserves an opportunity. Like, we all thought that Rick Kowalski deserved an opportunity considering what he was doing when the team was still in Albany, and he proved that he couldn't do it. Well, I think they should give Sergey Brylin an opportunity.
I think having Brylin aside of, let's say, you just talked about Mark Recchi would be a great,